Good morning, everyone. Okay, today is a solo episode. As you can see, it's just me and you. And we're talking about all the things identity and how our identity changes and evolves when you are really going through a diagnosis, right? When you're managing and your child, in my case, my son, when he received an autism diagnosis, I just didn't cope. I was really rocked by the idea that the identity was somehow lost, that I didn't know who I was anymore. And I know I'm not alone. I know that I am not the exception. I know that the reality is most parents, specifically mums, really struggle with their identity after they receive an autism diagnosis for their children. And it's heartbreaking. It is truly heartbreaking to see that occurs, because the reality, we were sold a story, right? At the end of the day, we were sold a story, and I know I feel like this. We were sold a story that of you standing in front of the big white house and the white picket fence with your beautiful partner, your husband, your wife, and you've got 2 or 3 typical children standing in front of you. And in my mind, that's what I was thinking of. That's how I imagined that my life would go, right? That we would get married in the big fat Greek wedding with the 5 million people, and we would go on to have these beautiful babies, and life would be ever more the wonderful things that it would be, right? That my son would go on to be the team captain and the jock, and my daughter would be the cheerleader, because you're sold these stories because you see them through the movies, through the American movies, which we see all the time, through the American TV shows, which we see all the time. We see them through Aussie movies as well. And that's not how it worked, right? That isn't how my life panned out. And I either had to go through curveball after curveball after curveball, trying to meet the challenge where it is, trying to understand where I need to move next, understanding that I needed to pivot consistently because the goals kept moving. I don't necessarily know that parents of typical children understand what that's like when you finally get to a point where you're ready to kick that goal right in the center of that goal stand, and then all of a sudden, nope, no, we're gonna move it away now, and you won't reach the goal anymore. And it's so hard when you feel like you don't have what it takes to keep moving forward, because there requires so much energy, so much persistence and consistency, right? When we're talking about autistic children, we're talking about that consistent part and that consistent piece, right? Knowing that you have to be consistent in order to teach them that new skill. And so the identity part of being a mum gets lost. It gets lost because like I said, you get sold a story that just didn't quite happen. Now, that's not to say that some parents handle the autism diagnosis really, really well, right? Maybe they've got a background in teaching. Maybe they've got a background in, they've worked in a daycare, or they've had someone around them that was autistic, right? So they knew what to look for. I didn't have those things. And so when it happened, it felt like it came out of thin air, right? Like a massive left hook coming in to smash me in the face. The reality is that the signs were all there. I just didn't know how to look for them. I didn't know that the tippy-toeing and the stimming and all the things, I just thought my son was living his best life, right? Which most of us, especially if you have a child who's a firstborn, you don't know any different, right? You can't see the things that are right there in front of you because you haven't had the education. And so when you get that diagnosis, it really strips you bare. And this is where the grief component comes in. It comes in because you have to shed the layers that you once held on to, who formed the identity of your past, and you're current, but now you needed to shed them in order to make space for this new identity to emerge. And that is the grieving process that I see so many of my clients go through. The grief that they have to peel back those layers and understand that what's underneath is just as beautiful and just as strong. In fact, probably stronger, right? It's so hard. I wish I could say, oh, it's easy. Just do one session with me. We'll get it cured. No problems. No, I wish I could say that. That is not how it works. When you have an idea of your future and then someone takes that blueprint and sets it on fire, you're going to grieve. You're going to grieve because it wasn't what you were expecting. And so we see this a lot. Tony Robbins says this really well. He talks about why so many people are stuck and so many people feel overwhelmed because their present tense, what's happening right now, doesn't match their expectation, right? So if you're currently doing something and you expected it to be completely different, you are going to be in a world of pain. You are going to be struggling. You're not going to be coping, and everything is going to feel hard. Everything is going to feel like you are really putting in every single rep and not moving any further, right? Now, as women, and as I'm sure some men know, when we do get in the gym, right? You like, I'm on that treadmill. I am running as hard as I can. Well, it's probably more like jogging, but that's not the point. The point is I am on the treadmill. And if you are running or you're jogging and you're doing it consistently and the weight just doesn't come off, there gets to a point you're like, well, what's the point? I don't have anything left in the tank. I don't have any reserves left in order to fill my cup, in order to fill the cups of my children. What happens then? Far too often I see mums and they're at that point. They're at the breaking point. They're at the point where they feel like they have nowhere else to turn. And they don't know that there's a better way. There is such a better way, but you can't see it if you don't know it. You can't see what you don't know exists, right? And I know it's funny, you have to be in a position where you're happy to accept the information. I had someone tell me one time that my son's autism was no biggie. Like, there are children dying, okay? You need to just pick up your big girl panties and deal with it. And at the time, I was livid. Like, when I say livid, I was furious. However, she was right. As hard as it was to come to the understanding that perspective is everything we need, right? I have seen mums who have children who are in hospitals, who are having seizures every day, who are dealing with the most horrific things you could imagine with their children, and their disposition is next level. They're happy. They're beaming, full of sunshine. That is what it takes, right? The reality is no one is coming to save you. Only you. You're the only person who can change what's happening up here, right? Not your husband, not your mum, not your mother-in-law, not your girlfriend. It's you. That's part of that, like, coming out, those layers coming off. You need to figure out who you are again so that you can show up as the mum that you knew that you wanted to be. It's not easy. It's downright difficult. But that's what change is, right? You look at the snake when it's shedding its skin. It's not easy to get rid of that, but it knows that it must do this in order to survive. This is the next step that it must go through in its journey to ensure that it continues to live. And so this is what I say to you, Mum. I can feel your pain. I feel it because I can feel it in my gut right now. I can feel the pain and the sorrow and the sadness and the anger that you're feeling. Why him? Why me? Why us? Why not somebody else? Why not you? Why did it have to be the person down the road? Take a breath. I know it's hard. But the only way forward in changing this identity, in changing this perspective, is putting one foot in front of the other. That is the only way that you can move forward. You cannot make any changes if you are stuck in the same place. I know, because I was there for a very, very long time. And reliving the things that you think cause this autism, reliving the things that you think someone thought about you or said about you or did this or did that, you're wasting that energy. There's a saying that I love to tell people. When someone has revenge, when you are so revengeful, so spiteful over what someone has done, you end up drinking the poison, hoping someone else will die. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't drink it, because it's so easy to drink it. It's so easy to just be angry and stay there, right? Fall down the rabbit hole and not even care and just think, you know what? Woe is me. I'm the victim. I'm hard done by and I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to run away. And I don't want to have to think about all the therapy appointments and all the scheduling and all the homework and having to deal with the meltdowns and the food or the lack of food and the no sleep. And the list goes on, right? You can only change you. You can't change your child. You can't change anybody else around you, but you can change who you show up as. Your identity plays a huge role in how you show up, right? I just actually did a post on a side note. I did a post a couple of days ago, and I was talking about how what we wear has a direct correlation to how we feel, right? If you're not pouring into you, it will show, right? If you are looping, which basically means that you're thinking that same awful thought over and over again, or it's that negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good mom. I don't know what I'm doing. All the things I'm pretty sure I can see all the hands going up when I say, have you ever had negative self-talk? And we are all putting our hands up because I am still yet to meet a mum, let alone a woman, who hasn't had that negative self-talk. It's not getting you anywhere. It's not getting and moving you past the finish line. You're actually saying, cool, I'll just put some extra rocks in the back of my sack and we'll just keep running. We'll just keep running because we can, but it's so much harder. Why? Why do you want to make your life harder than it actually needs to be? It doesn't need to be this difficult, but you need to do the work. And the work is where nobody wants to do the work. Okay? That is a fact. You think that I want to get up at 5:45 in the morning and like slug my guts out on that treadmill? No, I want to be asleep with my husband, like having the dream that I'm over in Greece somewhere drinking a bloody pina colada, mocktail pina colada, you know, sitting there relaxing. It takes the work to feel good. It takes the work to change your body, but it also takes the work to change your mindset, to change your identity, to change the way that you are showing up. Oh, friend, I wish I had this pep talk when many, many years ago when my angel boy was diagnosed. And you need to be ready to be able to understand, to take that next step. But if you don't, and if you can't, it's very hard to take in this information. And you might see this Instagram or this Facebook Live, and you might think, I just don't have it. I can't. I want to believe that my son or my daughter will grow out of their autism, right? It was a belief that I had. Oh, mate, that belief was strong, right? And I just think, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what's going to happen. My son might turn out to be a PhD, right? He might go on to be a world speaker. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is How I'm going to show up today is how I'm going to pour into him and to my daughter and into my husband, if I'm really being honest. So many marriages are being affected by this autism diagnosis over and over and over again. And I say to parents consistently, let's look at you. Let's look at your identity. Let's see if we can reframe all of this into something bigger and better. When I was in the midst of grieving and crying and utter devastation, I remember I would be like screaming into my pillow and I'd be so angry with God. I would be like, why? Why have you given me this? What is this? I don't understand. And now I do. Almost a decade later, I understand why he gave me the huge responsibility of parenting a child with autism. I fully believe that this is my mission. My mission is to help you in particular, the one that's watching this live right now. It's to help you through so many of those layers that you are carrying, to shed those layers, because I know there is something stronger and beautiful underneath, but you have to be willing to let go, because we hold on to those identities so tightly. We white knuckle it because we don't know any other way. If I said to you, okay, pack up your things, you're going to go and live over in Germany, some of you would be like, yes, I am going to get me some sausages and I'm going to speak the language. Some of us are not so keen. Not because we don't like Germany, because we are absolutely terrified because we don't know the language. We don't know where to go. What happens in an emergency? How does this work? Where do we go? All the questions start coming in, right? And that's what happens when you get an autism diagnosis. You don't know the language. You do have to learn a language. That is the fact. There is so much terminology that comes with an autism diagnosis, all the acronyms, right? That I remember thinking, what's neurodivergent? What's neurotypical? I don't understand. What's OT? What's ASD? I don't understand the terms that you're talking about. This doesn't make any sense. And so you have to relearn your environment. You have to relearn what it is to be you. And so that's why a path to a new identity is so profound. I really think that it's important that we look at our identity, because if you really look at the word identity, it identifies who we are. And if I had said to you before your child was diagnosed with autism and I said, who are you? And you would have said to me, no doubt, beaming, right? I'm a mom and I have X amount of children and I'm married and I've got this job, or I'm a stay-at-home mom and I do all these things. And you would have known without a shadow of a doubt exactly who you were, right? You knew that you love the color blue and that you like to go to shopping with the girls and all these bits and pieces. And then that world crumbles and you have to redefine who you are. And that's tricky, because redefining requires you to sit back and understand who you are now, right? Because up until that point, you had 25, 30, 35 years of experience of understanding who you are. You've had all this past experience of understanding all the things that you like to do and don't like to do. But now we're going to put the brakes on and you are going to have to redefine who you are in this present moment right now. And that's what's tricky, because you don't have any past experiences to lean back onto. You don't have the joy or the wonder or the knowledge to say, oh, I've done this before. I know what to do. It doesn't work like that. When you get an autism diagnosis, as soon as those words come out of your pediatrician's mouth, that's day one. Let's go. And you need to rebuild what is around you. And then and there, you need to figure out what you need. And it's only through experience can you learn who you are, how to show up, what's the best way to show up as a mum of an autistic child. What's the best way to show up of a child who's typical, but is also the sibling of an autistic child? How to show up for a husband or a wife who hasn't fully accepted the diagnosis. How to show up when you're being gaslit from therapists, teachers, doctors. How to show up when you feel like you can't move forward, that you can't step forward, you can't move another day because you don't even know. You're so stuck in those tracks, so unsure of what to do. Now, identity is funny because if we don't figure it out, society will figure it out for us. That is the reality. You will be put in a box and you'll be put in that box pretty quickly, just like we see with our children who are autistic. They're put in a box that identifies who they are. Now, it's funny. My son was non-speaking until he was probably around 5, and he was put in a box. The box that he mustn't be very clever. He mustn't be. Oh, he doesn't have any words. That's okay. All these things, we make assumptions about that person, but that's not true. So I ask you, don't let society put you in that box. You define what that box is for you. You get to choose who, when, where, what is in that box. Decorate it in flowers for all I care, but you need to know what your box looks like so that when someone comes to you with a not so nice comment or a nice comment or a challenge, or maybe your child is having a meltdown, that you can step in that box and know exactly who you are. Because I can guarantee you, when you're up in the middle of the night and you've had maybe 2 hours of sleep and you're literally losing your mind, you're not going to know who you are. You won't know because you're exhausted and you're angry and you're tired and you're ready to tap out. That's it. I'm done. I don't want to play this game anymore. I just need to go to sleep. Know what's going into your box. Know who you are, because ultimately, when things go south and that stuff hits the fan, you know the stuff I'm talking about. When that hits the fan, you can go back to that. You can go back to that identity. You can go back to who you were and why that's so important. Because I tell you right now, if you don't have those foundations, it's a hard slog. You will be pushing, what's the saying? You'll be rowing without a paddle. I'm sure I got that wrong, but you get the gist, right? You need to put in the foundations. You need to grieve first. Let's pump the brakes. Take the moment. Take the moment to grieve, because it's so tricky. But then at one point or another, you are going to have to understand that you will need to take the next steps. Staying where you are stuck is not going to help you. And it's not going to help your child either. That saying where you put your oxygen mask on first so that you can help your children. That's why they say it in the planes, right? Because if mum is going down, and most households that I speak to, mum is usually the captain at home. She's the one driving the ship. If mum's going down, everybody's going down, right? Because the reality is you are juggling and you are spinning so many plates right now. But you owe it to yourself to find a better way. You owe it to you and you owe it to your children to find what works for you, and so that you can show up and be that person for them. It's easy to stay there. Lord knows I used to, and we all do it, right? We all use the coping mechanism, right? The drinking, the smoking, the drugs, the scrolling on Instagram and Facebook, the smoking cigarettes, the shopping, the online shopping. There's so many things. But eventually, you will get to a point where that is not serving you anymore. And I remember there would be a time where someone would look at my angel boy because he would be making vocal stims. You know, he was trying to express himself. And they would just, you could see the confusion and the, I don't really know about that. Like, that's a bit weird and a bit odd, and on their face. And I remember I just silently cry, right? And I would go home and pour myself a glass of wine because, you know what? Why not? Why not drink that glass of wine to just ease the pain that's going on right now? Why not? No one's going to be here to stop me. I just need something to take the edge off. My friends, this is why it's so important that you know I don't drink anymore. And I probably haven't for about 3 years now. And that makes up a part of my identity, right? I'm the girl that rocks up to the party and I'm not going to drink because my past experience has shown me that when I drink, I'm usually drinking because I'm trying to dull the pain. No longer was it a glass of wine with a beautiful cut of steak to enjoy with my meal. It was a moment of, I need to drink this in order to just calm my nerves. There is a better way. And unless you tap into that, you won't know. So I want to share with you something that I have created that I hold dearly in my heart, that I hope will help you manage that identity and manage those layers that come with reshaping who you are, reshaping your future. And so the guide is called Autism and the Mum Identity Crisis, the path to finding the path to finding you. See, this is why it's life. See, I can make the mistakes too. And basically it's a 5-step guide and it walks you through all the things that you need to do in order to shed those layers and also to redefine who you are and what that identity looks like. Now, so for some people, they will just print it off and they'll happily do it on their own, right? They'll journal it, they'll think about it, they'll put some notes in their phone. For other people, they want to be able to speak it with someone. So I want to offer you that if this is you and you feel like you are a bit scared, a bit nervous, maybe a bit anxious about going through the guide, know that you can book in a free call with me. Okay. And we can have a quick discussion around where you're at and what's going on. And then we can talk about what we can do together, right? Because like I've said so many times, this journey does not need to be done alone. My goodness, I have tried to do it alone and I have failed over and over again. Whew. As mums, you know, we often see it. You've seen it with like Jane Fonda, and she's like, women friends are everything. You need that community. You need that sense of people who get it, who know what you're going through, who don't look at you like you've got 3 heads and don't understand when you're like, I haven't slept a wink and I am exhausted because I didn't cut his triangles the right way or his sandwich, or I didn't, he wouldn't eat anything, right? He wouldn't eat anything today. Like, I don't think that parents of typical children necessarily understand what that means. And so if you are feeling like that and you feel like you need some hand holding and you need someone to step you through it, I will put a link down the bottom where you can book in your free call. And I just think it's important that as women, we understand what we're doing. We understand what it is to create that identity. So the link, just so you know, in case I don't have a chance to pop those links in before for the people that are live, if you go to resources.urseeing.com.au/identity, you'll get there. So I hope that this conversation has been helpful. I hope that you have seen that we can change and change who we are and shed those layers. But it takes work and it does take some hand holding and it does take some time. I wish that I could say, you're done, right? Shed the layers and you're all good to go. It takes, you have spent like I said, you've spent the last 30, 35, 25 years crafting who you were. It's probably going to take a little bit for you to craft who this new person is going to be. to figure out what she likes, what she doesn't like, what happens when she's feeling overwhelmed. What does she do when she's feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and freaked out? Where does she go? Who does she talk to? What does she drink? What does she eat? So many things come into play. You know, are you reaching for the Cadbury chocolate bar, or are you reaching for the eggs and the avocado? Because you know that the protein and the fat are going to help. Know that that option is always there for you. That free call is always there for you. So guys, thank you so much. I sincerely hope and I trust that this conversation was helpful. Send me any DMs if you've got any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye.